Hello folks, good morning. I wanted to just take this video and show you the latest addition to my home orchard. As you can see, this is a beehive. It's not yet colonized. I'm hoping to capture a wild swarm of bees. You'll recall from some prior videos that I had a wild swarm of bees land on one of my Santa Rosa plums a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and basically spend the night as they sent out scouts looking for a new home. Unfortunately, I was not able to capture that swarm, but I decided that I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I've been meaning to buy a beehive or invest in some orchard mason bee homes to try and import some orchard mason bees to this area. But orchard mason bees are not native to Florida, and I thought it would be too difficult to get them to work, to basically adapt to this climate and function adequately. My preference would have always have been orchard mason bees, but I decided to go with what I thought was the more likely to succeed route, and that is honeybees, because we have honeybees here everywhere. They're in, as I indicated, a wild swarm landed in my yard the other day, so that means that there was a colony nearby somewhere. And the bees love citrus trees, and I do have a few citrus trees in the garden. Unfortunately, what I have been seeing for the past few years is that my plum trees and my apple trees have been blooming reasonably well, but they have not been setting fruit. And all my attempts to hand pollinate those trees using a little paintbrush have not been successful. Well, that's not true. I would say they've been about 30% successful. Most of my attempts do not work. I don't actually achieve pollination. Occasionally I do, but it's not very common. So I thought to myself, this has to be a pollination problem. And what I have done now is buy this bee box, and hopefully the bees will decide that they like it and will move in. It's been rather difficult, honestly, because they are rather finicky. I shouldn't say finicky, but because those things will nest in anything. But if you do anything that disturbs them in any way, like when I had the swarm here, I put out a quick and dirty box to hopefully capture them, and I decided that I would mow the lawn in an area where I was going to put the box. That was enough to upset them. They could hear the sound waves travel. It was about maybe 60-70 feet from the hive, or not from the hive, from the swarm, and the next day they were gone. So you really have to be careful not to mess with not to disturb them, or they won't decide to stay. Hopefully I'll have more success with the beehive. I bought this from Amazon, a place called Needy. It's an Neady beehive. You can find it on Amazon. It's like $180. Yes, I know I paid more than I should have. I shouldn't have invested the money. I could have made one my own. But if you've ever been to my garage, you'll know that it's a god-awful mess, and I have no room to do any kind of work. Even though I have woodworking machines, I have several miter saws and one table saw, and I have drills and everything. But the problem is that I just don't have the room to do it because there's so much junk in the garage. That's another long-term project, is clearing out that junk. I'll probably end up renting a little one of those places where you rent a little, how should I put it, like when you're moving and you rent a little space in one of those rent-a places that have lots of little garages or lots of little units. I'll probably end up doing some of that, and and emptying out some of the garbage from my garage. I don't want to get rid of it just yet, but I can't have it in my garage all the time. It's just too inconvenient. So there you have it. Let me just go ahead and take this off the tripod so I can walk around the beehive and you can have a closer look at it. And you'll notice that there's mottled sun on the beehive. I put it underneath an oak tree. If I can stand, go up a little bit. You can see there's the overhanging branches of the oak tree. That was by design, because I actually researched it online, and as apparently what happens is that these wild bees don't want direct sun all the time. They want like mottled sunlight. They actually prefer to make nests in those areas in conditions like that. So I decided to follow the advice of these people, these experts, and go ahead and set it up. But there you can see what it looks like. It's a 3-layer stack. The bottom one has the brood chamber. In between the bottom one and the middle one is a excluder. It's made out of plastic to keep the queen bee inside the brood chamber and let her only lay eggs in the brood chamber, and leave the other 2 boxes, keep them out. That's the way I understand it, is to keep the queen bee out of the other 2 areas, so that the worker bees, which are smaller than the queen, can actually get through the sieve in the excluder up to the upper layers and store honey there. But the queen cannot get in there and lay eggs in the same area. So that's the whole idea. I wasn't originally going to get into the honeybee harvesting business, but if I'm going to spend this much money and I'm going to go through this much trouble, then I figured I should at least try to harvest the honey and use it myself, because we do use honey here every now and again. Right now I'm buying it from Costco, but I'll probably stop doing that once I harvest it, start harvesting it myself. Just a pan around here. This is the back corner of my orchard. There's the avocado tree in the distance. Let me show you something interesting, actually. This is the oh, you can see the cardinal on the avocado tree. Those little bird boxes that I set up for bluebirds actually is being used by house sparrows. No surprises there. But I haven't seen any bluebirds in a while in this area, so I don't think that bluebirds are going to be common visitors to my garden. And so I'm okay with house sparrows. At first I didn't want them, but they actually are, they feed their young protein in the form of insects and worms and stuff, so they actually do a good job of cleaning the trees of insects. And I have to say, it does work. This year I've not had to fumigate anything at all. I still spray for fungicides. I still spray for fungus, and I use fungicides, but I do not spray. I haven't had to spray for insect infestation yet. There has been some insect infestation, but it's been minimal, under control, and I'm okay with that. Anyway, getting back to what I was going to show you about the avocado tree. This is Joey avocado. Look at what happens to the Joey avocado when the sun starts banging down hard. This is, well, actually all avocados do this. See how the edges of the leaves get dry? See that? They actually die. This leaf will eventually fall off, and the tree starts pushing out new leaves. See that? This is all new growth to try and compensate for that loss. The problem with this process is that it takes a fair amount of time to complete, unless you have a fast-growing tree or you fertilize it heavily, which I'm about to do. But during that time, when these leaves are drying out and falling off and the new ones are coming out, these tender shoots are exposed to the southwest facing sun, where it gets really, really, really hot, and it scorches the trees. Let me change the density filter here. It actually scorches the trees. Hold on. I'm adjusting the neutral density filter on the camera. It's telling me that it doesn't like the light levels. So this material, this soft green wood will actually die if you don't protect it from the heat. And you can see the evidence of that here. This is what happened a few years ago. This area right here died. This is all wood that actually got sunburnt and died back. So this is the core, the wood, the dead woody tissue, core of the core. This is the living tissue, the outer layers, the cambium layers. And you can see that I might have to end up having to cut it off here because this is rotting away. You can see it's pulling back. See that? Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something about that. Yeah, that's bad. I'll end up cutting that off. I didn't want to, but I'm gonna have to. At the very least, I should probably plug it up so that no insect, well, I probably already have insects, borers inside there already. Yeah, there's borers in there. But you can see the damage that this thing does. It just really messes it up big time. And this is a problem that I was facing last year. And people are mentioning, well, why do I leave my avocado trees so overgrown? This is why. This is why I let them get bushy, and you might think they seem, you know, unpruned and wild. Well, there's a reason for that, is because the heat, the summer heat, the summer sun here is so intense that unless I leave lots of branches on the tree in order to shade the vulnerable tissue, it'll actually kill it. It'll actually kill the vulnerable tissue. That's something that I learned the hard way. And this tree almost died a couple years ago, because of that. And I ended up removing it, putting it in a pot for 1 year and letting it grow, and then feeding it liquid fertilizer to get it to come back. And I successfully revived it. And then I decided to take a chance this year and put it in the ground, and look what happened. Ain't that something? So this is the other tree. You notice that tree right there, which is a day avocado, is under the branches of the oak tree, Florida oak, and she's doing much better. She doesn't have dead tissue or anything like that. She's actually growing now. She's got lots of issues with little insects feeding. I think they're some sort of beetle, Japanese beetles, eating the new growth on the top. But the tree is able to compensate for that and put out more growth anyway. So I'm not too worried about that right now. This year I will be pruning after the harvest. I'll be pruning those lower branches and getting them out of the way this year. Anyway, so I just want to make one parting comment about the garden and insect control. I have a mulberry tree in my garden. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. It's kind of far away from it, but you see that big tree right there? That big tree right there? Oh, my finger's in the way there, but that big one that's very, very bushy, that is a Persian mulberry. She's very prolific producer, and every year I prune it back hard in the winter. She goes dormant, and then she wakes up in the spring and starts putting out branches like mad. And then because the fruit comes out on the new growth, she just gets full of mulberries. I don't personally eat the mulberries, although I like them. I like this mulberry. It's a little bit tart, but I noticed that the birds love this mulberry, especially the cardinals. And I absolutely love the cardinals. I think they're beautiful birds. So I leave the mulberries for the cardinals and the blue jays, and they nest. Every year they come back and they nest around my property because of that food source. And they have been really, really helpful in keeping insects under control in the garden. So if you can, or if you're so inclined, try and put a mulberry tree or some other tree that species of bird will like, a fruit-eating bird, like the cardinal. Yeah, actually, there's a cardinal right there. I don't know if you saw it, but it's at the bottom of the mulberry tree. It went from the ground and up into the tree. There she is. She's flying away. But the point being that even though these birds are fruit eaters, they feed their young protein. They feed their young insects. So I see them all the time jumping from one tree in my garden to the next tree looking for insects to feed their brood, or their chicks, and they do that all the time. So these birds have been really, really helpful, because there's nothing I hate more than fumigating with poisons, because it's a terrible thing. Not only is it dangerous to people, but it also is horrible for the beneficial insects like bees and other insects that actually help me. So yes, you lose some bees with the birds, you lose some of those beneficial insects, but it's a balanced process, right? When you fumigate with these really broad spectrum, you know, these broad spectrum, what do you call it? What's the name I'm looking for? Insecticides. They will kill everything. They're indiscriminate killers. They'll just kill everything. And so I've been trying to get away from this fumigating as much as I can. I can't avoid it entirely because I still have fungal problems on my apple trees, and so I have to fumigate Captan with Captan 50 to control the fungi. That does a really good job of controlling the fungus on the apple trees. So I'll be doing that still, but at the very least, I'll try not to be using any kind of insecticides anymore. Anyway, there's the video of my beehive. Now, if things go well, and God willing, I'll get a swarm of bees to move in the near future. Right, I'm gonna sign off because I have to start. I have to get back to work soon. My shift starts in about 20 minutes. See you guys later. Bye.